to a new video. Today I'm reviewing a watch that is very special to me, a watch that I've been wanting to get for a very long time. My passion with watches started long time ago, but 5 years ago I started becoming more serious about it. This was when I purchased my most expensive watch back then in 2017. It was an Omega Seamaster Professional. At that time, I had no interest in Rolex as a brand, but once you are in this hobby, Rolex will cross your way one way or another. In 2019, I managed to get the Rolex Datejust 41mm. I ended up selling this watch because I didn't feel it fits my wrist well. After that, I got the 36mm version, and it matches my 6.75 inch perfectly. I got this watch in October 2020 from an AD. They wanted to sell it for me for around $9,200. I ended up negotiating and getting it for $7,600. I will not consider this as a discount, as this price was already around the MSRP of the watch. Honestly, I don't see any value for money when you buy a Rolex. You can just argue that you are wearing it for free. In other words, if you decided to sell it, you may end up getting all your money back or even with a profit. Don't get me wrong, the watch is beautiful and of extremely high quality, but the value for money will always be subjective. This watch reference is the 116234. This version of Datejust has been updated by Rolex in 2018, making the lugs thinner and upgrading the movement. I preferred to go with the older version of the watch because of the fatter lugs. The size being already 36mm, I was afraid it would look very small on my wrist. This is the box, and that's what's included in the box. The most important thing is the warranty card. This is the card I advise you get with every Rolex watch you purchase. It will have the model number, the serial number, and the date of purchase. New Rolex cards doesn't have your name anymore like they used to be. Putting the card aside, you will find in this fancy leather holder, which you will only use if you want to claim back your warranty or if you want to sell the watch. I will be making another video to compare the original box to another replica box, just to show you guys, and you can be aware about replicas that are available in the market. Let's put the box aside and look at the watch. The watch diameter is 36mm with the lug distance of 20mm, thickness of 12mm. The movement in this watch is the caliber 3135. It's an automatic movement, designed and manufactured by Rolex. This movement has gone through a number of upgrades over the years until it reached this version. It is certified to the exacting standards of the COSC, just like the Datejust itself. Unfussy and wholly reliable. Compared to the newer movement introduced by Rolex in 2018, which I used to have in my 41mm Datejust, it has lesser power reserve. The new movement has the 70 hours power reserve compared to the 48 hours on this watch. However, I noticed that the rotor movement is more silent in this version, the older version. When I had my 41mm, the rotor was noisy, and when I checked at the Rolex service center, they confirmed that it should be this way. I checked again on the forums and found many people reporting the same thing. So, enough talking, and let's get to the review of the watch. So let's start with the case. The lugs are polished at the top. Normally I don't prefer polished surfaces because they get to scratch very easily. But in this case I can see it matches the whole style of the watch, especially with the fluted bezel. The polishing is very good and of high quality, as you may expect from Rolex. The sides are polished as well. You can find polishing all over the watch case, except for the case back. The The polishing is of a very high quality. It's a mirror-like polish. You can even see my reflection on the case. The crown sits proudly at 3 o'clock. The crown is beautifully machined, and it matches the overall style of the watch again, which will take me to this watch integrity. It's a term I came with this specific watch. The teeth on the crown matches the bevel on the case back and the fluted bezel on the top. The separation between the top of the lugs and the sides are again of higher quality, no complaints here. The only point that I don't understand with this watch is the sterile case back. Nothing is there, no branding, no texting. Normally I prefer a logo or a description and some information of the watch, especially when it's a Rolex. But Rolex insists on keeping the case back plain like this. The only thing that looks nice to me on the case back is the fit and finish between the case and the bracelet, which is something common with all Rolex watches. The tolerances are perfect. Now let's move to the bracelet. Rolex bracelets are very famous for being extra comfortable. A comfortable watch is the watch that you forget you are wearing after putting it on your wrist. And I can say this about this watch. You just forget it, especially in this 36mm size. It's very light and very comfortable. The finishing on the bracelet is perfection, from the brushing and the polished middle links. I'm not a fan of polished middle links again, but as you can see here, it just works well with the overall design of the watch. The brushing is done beautifully, and the polished mirror-like links add to the whole style of the watch. Even the clasp. Everything on this watch does not fail to reflect light beautifully, even the clasp. The links are polished on the sides and attached together with screws. I haven't tried to unscrew them myself, but at the AD when they were sizing the watch for my wrist size, it seems the screws are locked securely. Of course, the clasp is a milled one with a beautiful branding. The clasp mechanism includes a spring, which makes it so easy to open, not like other watches where you need to use your nails or your fingertip. The spring works perfectly and makes it so easy to get it off. One last thing I wanted to add about the bracelet. It doesn't have a diver extension or a glide lock like the sports model Submariner, but it has a small extension where you can use to slightly increase the total length of the bracelet. This is how you use it, and you just put it back this way to engage again. It is securely locked, so there are no worries that it may open up on itself. As I mentioned before, I'm not a fan of polished surfaces on my watches, but as you can see, it works perfectly with the design of the watch. It all adds up to the vibes you get from the Datejust. I have nicknames for my watches, and this Datejust is the queen of reflections. Now let's move to the dial, which is normally my favorite part of any watch. When I was thinking about buying my second Datejust, I was torn between the silver dial and the white dial. For me, the watch was already very dynamic with this bezel and polished surfaces, so I decided to choose white. Everything applied in the dial is in white gold, from the hour markers to the crown, and they are not shy to reflect light in all conditions. The hour markers are thick and can give you this 3D effect. The text is crisp and very clean as you expect from a genuine Rolex watch. You will find the second hand stretching perfectly to the railroad track, while the minute hand is exactly on the hour markers. The hands can look black or dark gray in low light until the lights start to reflect on them, and you can see the beauty of this white gold. Overall, the dial design aspects works perfectly all together, which make the watch looks great in the end. The hour and minute hands are beveled in the middle, which helps more with the legibility and their ability to reflect light. The second hand is completely polished, and in comparison with my cheaper Seiko that I also love, SNX series, the hands on the Rolex are just thicker and bolder, which adds to the elegance of the watch. It makes it look more premium. Legibility is very good with this dial because the hour markers and the hands just stands out in this white dial, especially in sunlight. When the dial is dynamic or reflective, it can be difficult to read in direct sunlight. With this watch, I had no problems at all, which again something I will expect from a watch at this price. On the metallic chapter ring, you will find the text Rolex all over the dial, the start of the R and ending with the X on the hour markers from 12 to 6, and starting with the R from 7 to 11. You can find the serial number of the watch, which you will find on your warranty card. Even the chapter ring does not fail to reflect light. At 3 o'clock you will find the magnifying glass, which is a signature of Rolex. The magnification is 2.5, and it's one aspect that I find most of the watches are failing in doing it properly, the way Rolex does. It of course increased the legibility of the date, which is written in a very crisp and clean text. But something to distinguish a genuine Rolex watch, as simple as it can be, is just the text of the date wheel. You should find all the numbers written perfectly and in clean shape. On this specific model, we've got the roulette date wheel, in which you will find the date color changing between black and red. It's a characteristic that was introduced by Rolex in 1945 when Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf introduced the Jubilee, the first automatic wristwatch with a roulette, black and red, date window. Later, the Cyclops lens was added for a date magnification, a distinctive sign for Rolex. The crystal on the watch has no anti-reflection coating. I didn't face any issues reading the watch. I feel that Rolex is just leaving it like this to add more reflections, so when the light hits the glass directly, you will find this reflection announcing the watch presence on your wrist. Something that caught my attention, and normally it doesn't on any other watch, is how the hands are stacked on top of each other beautifully with perfect spacing. Those are the details that adds to the watch beauty and value. Although I normally prefer dynamic dials, I chose to go with the white one. First, because they no longer do the white dials in Rolex lineup. Second, because I trust Rolex to do the white dial right. Now let's talk about the Lume. The Lume is great and it will last the whole night. It is in green color, not blue like the other Rolex sport models. Example, Submariner and GMT. Here how it looks like compared to a similar style watch. One of my favorites actually, which is the Seiko Sarb 033. However, I can surely say the Lume was nothing special compared to my cheaper Seiko SNXS, as shown in the picture here. They are both comparable and they can last you the whole night. Nothing special here from Rolex. I will be doing later another video to compare those watches because I believe they have a lot of similarities and they can stay in one collection. Now with the wrist shot. Before this watch I had the Rolex Datejust 41mm that I sold earlier to get the 36. For me, I believe the Datejust design suits the 36mm size more, as it was originally intended. Also, I have to note that my wrist is 6.75 inch, which is not a big wrist, and for me the 36mm just fits perfectly. The watch is very versatile. Of course, it's not as versatile like a Rolex Submariner, where you can wear everywhere, even at the gym. However, once you are done with your workout, a Datejust will be ready for you and can be worn in any occasion. I'm showing it here while I am wearing more casual clothes, and it works perfectly, no issues there. You can wear a Datejust in any situation. Of course, I will not take this watch for a workout, for example, because of the flute bezel. The white gold is more malleable and ductile than steel, and the flute bezel can be scratched very easily. The polished surfaces are again prone to scratches, not that they will be visible, but you will know the scratches are there. I like to match my watches with what I'm wearing, and I can see the watch working perfectly in all colors and styling. I am a huge fan of Japanese watches, but I always feel that the Swiss wins in the elegance game, and this Datejust does not disappoint. The finishing is just perfect. Accuracy with this movement is on top of the game. Datejust is one of the most watches I wanted to buy when I was firstly introduced to the Rolex brand. For me, it is one of the most versatile watches in the market. It has the history, the heritage, even the name, and it resembles the importance of time and date and the history of Rolex, being the first watch to introduce an automatic date wheel in 1945. But getting a Rolex watch can be very complicated nowadays, and I am making a separate video about my experience at the AD and how I managed to get my two watches. In the end, thank you so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for more videos where I'm comparing this watch to other alternatives in different budget levels. Thank you and stay safe.